One of the next important elements within designing your cartoon characters is to think about the emotion that goes on within your cartoon character. Essentially what we're trying to do in a cartoon is we're trying to bring our characters to life. And by doing that, we're trying to give them a thought process that's all their own. We don't really want your cartoon characters to look as though they were manufactured by someone else's hand or drawn in a convoluted way that sort of forces the issue as to who and what the characters are. You want it to look as though, hey, this character is alive and this character is thinking about what they're actually doing. And the secondary thing that you want to do with your cartoon characters is you want to draw your audience into who and what the character is, and essentially make your audience feel like, hey, I feel what this character is feeling. This character is feeling sad, and I feel sad for the character as well. That's called empathy. And we want to try and do that as much as possible as we can within our drawing. So it's very important that you begin to think about those things when you're drawing your cartoon characters. So the next stage is essentially taking your cartoon character and trying to give it some form of an emotion. So let's go into our drawing here of a cartoon character, where we're going to start off with our basic sphere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a very simple cartoon character of a rabbit, let's say, and we'll take and just go through the process of drawing the character. And what I'll do is I'll verbalize what it is that I'm thinking as I'm drawing, to give you a sense of what your thought process should be. It's important that, again, as I mentioned before, that you think about what you're doing as you're doing it. Otherwise, if you're not thinking, you're doodling. I can't stress that enough. So what I've done is I've drawn my sphere on here, and now I'm going in and drawing my cross contours to get the attitude of the character's head, the angle of the character's head on. And now I'm just going to start to draw the character's facial features on. So my first line that I drew here was a crease line that is just on the bridge, the bridge of the nose, and the actual nose piece itself that's right here. And so I'm going to draw this as sort of a triangular shape that comes down like that. Then I'm going to take and do a cross contour on here, dividing it in half, and again you can see that the distance from here to here is greater than here to here because it's on a bit of an angle. The next step would be to extend this line down as a center line and define where the character's mouth is. And then I'm just going to draw this shape down here, draw the teeth on. This will be the part of the mouth and the lower part of the lips, the cheek area. Then I can extend this out, bring this out into a sort of a back part of a cheek area here. I'm just drawing in very, very lightly at first, just to sort of search out and feel, is this the appropriate size that I want the character's cheeks to be? And I don't have to worry about, putting down this line that's etched in stone, so that when I do, decide to make any revisions at some point in time, I can always go back and erase it down just very, very lightly and still have the general essence of my drawing without having to go right through the paper to the other side in order to erase a line. So I'm just sketching in very, very lightly at first, just wispy lines to get the general idea. Now I'm going to draw the center line up here. I'm going to draw the character's eyes on. The eye that's closest to us here. I think I might want to pull that open just a little bit more. Again, here's that example where you can see drawing lightly pays off because you haven't drawn the line in hard. So you can just go back and touch it up. You notice that what I did there was I made a decision as I was drawing. I thought about, did I like that line? And I answered myself immediately, nope, don't like the line. I'm going to change it and alter it to a different position to suit my needs. And you go ahead and make the change. And again, this is part of the process of thinking through what you're doing. Next, I'm going to go in here and draw that brow across there. Let's give the character an eye direction here. And what I'm doing here is, as I'm drawing this cartoon character, I'm sort of designing him on the spot, and just trying to decide within my own mind, what do I want the character to look like? I'm just doing sort of a neutral type of a pose, not worrying too much about the expression at this point in time, because I'm just sort of feeling the character out for the first time and saying, does this character look like a half-decent character that I like? So now I'm starting to go in and pencil my lines in a little bit more hard because I'm happy with some of the lines that are there. Put whiskers out here. Yes, and I'll go up into the top of the head and just maybe refine this head a little bit more, flatten out the top of it a little bit, pull out a couple of tufts of hair just to accentuate the center line coming down there and bring the brow up and across. And then what I can now do is I can go in and start to rough out where my ears are. And just working the basic shape there, not worrying about where the final lines are because I can always go in and alter them. But the whole time, again, I'm thinking about the perspective of the character, how the ears are working in perspective in relation to the eyes across here and the nose and the mouth, all the way going off to a vanishing point over here. And I'm also thinking about the general shape of this ear and how it works, and thinking about, okay, now if I look at it on another angle where this ear over here is off to the side, I might see more space over here on this side and less space on this side now than I would over here on this side. So now I'm just going to go in and finish off the way the final line on the ears goes, put a couple of little tufts of hair up there, define the final edge for the dimension of the ear there, and bring the fleshy part up and around. Do the ear on the closest edge here, closest side to the viewer. And see, the technique that I'm using when I'm drawing here is called the feathering technique, because I'm going in and drawing my line in layers. I'm not being definitive about actually hitting the line and drawing it purely, because I want to be careful to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And in the rough sketching stage you can get away with something like that, but when you actually go down to your final clean line, that's when you actually want to go in and start being very careful about how you precisely draw the line, like the way I'm doing it right now. So there's my character. There's that on here. Like that. Now the next stage in my process would be to think about what this character's expressions might be and how the character is thinking at about a particular time. And I've given you a list of expressions in one of your lessons, and it's actually in the Designing Cartoon Characters for Animation booklet as well. If you look through, and you'll find it. I can't remember the exact page that it's on, but there's a whole list of about 150 different emotions. And what you need to do now is you need to imbue this character with that specific emotion. So you can start off easily just by doing a happy, a sad, and angry, and surprised maybe, or something like that, and then see what you come up with. Now the next stage that I'm going to show you here is something that may not have occurred to you. It's something that I do as an animator. It's like what all animators do, and it's called flipping your drawings, where you take another blank sheet of paper, put it over top of this one, and then you draw the character again, but using a different expression. Rather than drawing the character again over here and trying to make the character look like the character is here, keeping the character on model, I don't have to worry about that so much, because by placing a blank sheet of paper over top, what I'm actually doing is I'm using the bottom drawing here as a reference to what I'm doing with the top one. So I can basically just go over top of it and see through the paper. I can see what the shape of the character's head is. There's the basic shape and the volume of it. If I take and flip it back and forth like this, I can see that I'm bang on with the volumes. Now all I have to do is I just have to alter that to suit my needs. So if I want my character to be in an angry type of an expression, what I can do is I can take and compress this down to squash the character just a little bit, but still maintain my overall volume by just flipping back and forth between the two. So if I take and compress this down now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some key anchor points here. And we'll talk about the anchor points as we go along on this one. The key anchor points on the character's head are the nose, the bridge of the nose, right up in here. That's where your bone, the cranial mass of your face meets the bone mass of your nose, and that part there can't move. That's solid bone. The same thing is true for down here on your eyes. your eyes can open up this way and they can squint up this way, but your cheekbones sort of become your anchor point. The purest anchor point is actually the inside of your eyes. That little tear duct area right inside there is the main anchor point, and everything else sort of flares out of there. You can squint up like this and bring your cheeks up, but this point in here maintains its position. If you're surprised, you'll open up your eye like this, and everything pulls up and away from it. The next anchor point is a soft anchor point, are the cheeks, because they can move up and down. Also, this area right under here, right underneath the nose where the top of the lip is, that's just another soft anchor point, because you can scrunch that up and bring your lips up like this, or you're grinning or gritting your teeth or something like that. Another hard anchor point are the ears, the hole right in the center of the ears. You can pull the ears back, you can flip them up and down depending on the expression, which we'll do with this character here being in an angry position. What we can do is we can angle the ears back as though the character is fairly angry. So you have your hard anchor points and your soft anchor points that you need to work with. So in this case here, I'm starting off with the nose, and I'm just going to flare the nose a little bit, because if the character is angry and he's going like this, actually what I'll do is I'll push the character's head forward. Well, I'm not going to do it here, but I'll angle it so that the neck is coming out this way. This type of thing. And so we're going to scrunch up the brows here, and my anchor point, this stuff here will just move up slightly. You can see the skin here is punched up. So I'm just going to scrunch up his nose just a little bit, and maybe flare his nostrils just ever so slightly. You can see that they're just flaring just slightly there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull his mouth back into this type of position, where it comes up and around like that. Maintain that center line up there and wrap this part up and around the opposite side of the face. It comes up like that. I'll draw the teeth in, and I'll just angle them back just a little bit as though they've been pulled back like that. And then this cheek line here will pull back in this direction. We'll open up the mouth, put the lip in behind the front teeth, and we'll get that's a accentuate this line right here on the bottom part, like that. And we're going to pull this down and show just a little bit of chin there, and wrap this lip around there and show the opposite side coming down, over like that. And then we'll just put the teeth in there. Show the teeth like that. Now what you need to do is bring the brows down hard. And scrunch the eyes up. And by scrunching the eyes, what we do is we treat this face as though it's like a balloon. And so we want to make sure that when we bring the eyes down this way, what we're doing is we're actually pushing the eyes out in this direction as well, just to maintain that general volume. You don't want to have it just collapse in upon itself and squish the character down. So we're going to pull it back like that. Dilate the pupils a little bit, just so they get a little bit smaller, so he looks like he's a little bit more angry. We're going to take that brow and just wrap it up and around. Because he's going like this, his cheeks are coming out too. That. And we'll pull the tufts of hair out a little bit further like that. So it just maintains that look of the character's face. It's like being very aggressive and puffing the cheek out on the one side, like that. And then we're going to take the neck and push it back here. It gets much more aggressive and forward. Angle the brow down. Again, I'm looking for that taper point. So you can see the distance here is greater, and it's getting thinner in here because I'm pulling this brow part here in and down this way. Down and in. Do that. And then we'll angle the ears back, down and low. The ears on the opposite side I'm drawing through here would come out, and we'd see just a little smidgen of it there. Draw the back of the head there. And we'll just bring this part here down. I want to show a little wrinkle on that side there, maybe just a little bit, just to accentuate the fact that he's really angry. And then we draw in the inside of the ear there. And there we have our angry rabbit. He looks pretty mad. Let's see how he's maintaining his model as I flip through to the other drawing. And we can draw the whiskers in a more aggravated stance up like that. See what makes the character look strong. So we maintain our model by drawing through like this, and then I can go back over the line and start to touch it up. This is something that you'll begin to develop as you go through this course and take your drawings to the next level. The thing I often tell my students is that when you're learning stuff like this, it's not a matter of the teacher necessarily. It's not a matter of the reputation of the course that you are involved in. The key factor in any learning situation is you as an individual. You are the person that is actually learning this stuff, and you're the person that's responsible for how quickly or how slowly you learn. And because you're the one that's in control of that, you're the person that's intaking the information. All I can do is, in this video series, is I can just simply sit here at my desk and I'm blathering on about some information about how to draw your cartoon character, which any other person who's in animation as a professional can do the exact same thing. These principles are well-founded throughout the entire industry. I'm not preaching anything new or something that I've invented myself. So it's not me that is really doing this for you. It's you that's doing it. And this is what I said in the introduction letter that I sent out to you, is that this course will only accelerate your drawing skills as far as you want to do it. You're the person that has to do all the work. I'm not the person that does the work. You're the one that does it. The only thing I'm doing for you in this actual course that you're paying for is I'm giving you feedback. So when you send in your assignment, I'll do exactly what I'm doing right now, is I'll set up my video cameras like this and I'll draw or look at your drawing and I'll point things out. And all I can do is just, focus on what you've done right or wrong. And then what happens is when you get it back in your hands, you're the person that determines what you're going to do with that. You can say, Brian, you're a complete idiot. I mean, that was a perfectly good drawing. Well, you don't know what you're talking about, pointing out all those mistakes. Those aren't really there. Or you can say, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that mistake really is there, and I should have seen that. And then it's what you do with it at that point in time. You then have to take that information, sit down, do the drawing over again, but this time be thinking about what it was that you did wrong. And so what I like to pretend it is that you've got this alarm inside your head, and what you're doing is, as you're drawing away, and if you do a line that does something you don't want it to, like let's say I draw the line way out here, which changes the volume of this, and my line comes out here. As soon as I draw that line like this, the alarm goes off in my head. The problem with a lot of people is that when they're drawing, the alarm tends to be turned down quite a bit, so the volume is very low. And the alarm is not necessarily an type alarm. It's more of a, hey, that's a bad line. That line isn't right. You really shouldn't be doing that. And it's a very meek, timid voice that isn't really making you change. And in reality, what you need to do is you need to turn the volume up on it, so that when you do something like that, you go, whoa, stop, don't do that line. That's really bad. Oh, that's an awful line. And your hand jerks away, so that your alarm goes, and you pull off immediately, and you don't continue that line. Then you go back and you immediately erase the offending line and fix it up and make sure that it looks correct, so that you can go on to a better drawing from that point on. So that's completely up to you as to how you determine what it is you're going to do with this course. You can take this course and you can just sort of ramble through the assignments and take the criticisms and go, yeah, what the heck, and I paid my bucks, I did my thing, and what did I get out of it? I don't know. But the important thing is that you actually struggle with it, think about what it is that you're doing, and put into effect the stuff that you're learning, the stuff that you're actually taking in, the stuff that I'm saying and making suggestions on. When you take that and you use it to affect the way your drawings are actually being done, that's what makes a difference. That's what makes your drawings come alive. That's what makes you improve. The way I like to look at drawing is I think of every person that draws as though they live inside this bubble. And your bubble is contains all the knowledge and information that you have gained throughout your life experiences. And as we go through life, we pour more information into this bubble. And the bubble is a lot like a balloon. As the balloon gets filled up, it begins to expand, but the actual balloon itself only has a certain amount that it can expand to. If you blow up a balloon, it gets very, very tight, and the pressure inside gets very high. And you'll often feel this as you're doing your drawings. You'll feel like, oh, the pressure, why can't I draw like, I wish I could draw better. And you have this frustration level. And so what I think is the best analogy is the balloon analogy. So what you really have to do is you have to take the information that you've got there, figure out what it is that's causing this pressure. Why can't you expand and get better at your drawings? What's holding you back from that? Focus in on the key specific thing. Don't just say something arbitrary like, oh, I can't draw. That's a lame type of a statement. What you need to do is you need to do a mental assessment and say to yourself, what is it that I'm really having a problem with here? Like, is it the way I hold my pencil? Is it the way I do the line? Is it my thought process when I'm thinking? Am I catching my mistakes ahead of time, etc., etc.? You go through that process of weeding down to what it is that your actual problem is that you're having with your drawing. You focus it down to a narrow point, and within your balloon, you then apply that point to the edge of the balloon, and it blows the balloon up, and all of a sudden, you feel this release of tension, and you go, oh yeah, now I can draw. This is great. And you physically feel that type of a psychological pressure release. But then, unfortunately, what happens is the next stage is that there's a brand new balloon that forms around you. It's a larger balloon, and it's a little bit softer and more pliable, so you can dump more information into it. And as we go through our lives, our balloons continue to expand, get really tight, we feel that tension, we apply the pressure to the key points that we know we need to fix, and boink, out goes a new balloon, and then boink, out goes a new balloon. And these balloons continue through your entire life. They will never end. They just keep going on and on and on. So it's one of those things where you've got to learn to accept the fact that this type of thing is going to be happening to you, and recognize that as you're going through your life, at key points you're going to run into problems with your drawings where you realize, I didn't do this right, and I should have done something slightly different with my drawing. What is it that I need to do to improve it? That's what this course is all about. This course is simply to bring to light some of the things that you might be doing wrong with your drawing and aim you in a direction that will take you to a higher level to make you feel like, hey, I can do a better job with my drawings. So that's in essence, essentially, what it is that I'm trying to get across to you with this whole course. Now, let's go back to our drawing again here that we have of our rabbit, and let's try another drawing now where we're going to take our rabbit and tilt the rabbit's head into a different position. So we'll actually rotate it around. We'll use the same general shape here. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm now going to tilt the eye line down and around like this. And I'm going to bring my center line over in this direction here. So the character is now looking down as though they're looking down like this. Now this is a tricky point of view because the problem with it is that we're foreshortening some of the perspective. And these are some of the elements that I talk about in the second lesson and third lesson and fourth lesson. I go through and I define all these different elements of drawing. And these are all elements that have either been taught by other people to me or I've learned through experience, or they're all pretty common sense type of things. But it's a good idea to get a handle on what these things are and how they're used in your drawing skills so that you can apply them to the way you actually do your drawing. So the elements of perspective in this point of view become very, very important. You have to have your perspective down in order to do this. Otherwise your drawing will just sort of fly apart on you. So now, after doing the nose, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to draw the eyes on. One eye there on that side, and draw the other eye on this side. I'm going to have the character looking down, as though they're sort of peering over the edge of something. Let's just do a quick flip back to our original drawing, see whether or not that works. You can see it's sort of animating as though the character is turning their head. Now this is not pure animation. I'm not trying to get to the point where I'm teaching you animation. That's not what this course is all about. It's not how to animate. It's how to draw for animation, how to do drawings that will be used later on in an animated form. So let's just focus on that element of it and not worry about, well, how do you time something out and how do you in between it and how do you make the lips move to the sound and all that type of stuff. Maybe I'll do a course on that, at another time, and we can get into it at that point. So right now we're just dealing with the basic perspective of the character. So here you can see I'm foreshortening the mouth quite a bit to make it a down shot. And I'm just going to pull this in. Actually, I'm just going to trim it in just a little bit more just to not have quite so much of the lip showing in the bottom there. And then trim this edge here. And again, these are all mental decisions that I'm making as I go along. And in actuality, I think what I should do is I should change the plane of the head, because the plane of the face right now is going at a very sharp angle there, but you can see the eyes are tilting back. So I think I really need to make an adjustment on these eyes here to pull them forward towards us. So in order to do that, I need to take this line here and bend it this way. I think that's a little bit better. Do the same thing with this one, just pull this top edge down. There you can see how the entire plane of the eye has now dropped down and forward towards us, which makes the head work a little bit better. Center line in there, edge there, and then draw into the back of the head. There's my top line across the back. We'll just square this off just a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the cheeks out and back in this direction here, and then attach this up there. I think I may be running into a problem there, but I think that's too low based on what I'm drawing here, because as I draw this line across here, remember you want this to run all the way through to the opposite side, drawing through and bring it around on this side here. And I think that the bottom of the mouth is just a little bit too low, so in actuality I should probably crop that off here. Yeah, that makes a difference. See how that brings the face back in line again. And that's better. Okay, there we go. Now we're cooking. Okay, so now I've got the head tilted down a little bit. I can draw my tufts of hair in. That. With the other tufts on the opposite side. Down and over. Put the brows on. That. Get the tufts of hair on the top center, and I'm using my center line, and I'm just adding a little bit of volume just to raise it up and out. And then what we'll do is we'll draw the ears on. I'm going to pull the ears and make sure that they're in the proper position. And again, here I'm thinking in terms of how does that fit on the head. So I'm going to draw a line from the top of the eyes up and over across contour, do another one on the opposite side there. So it creates a sense that I'm thinking three-dimensionally there. I'm going to attach my ears here and bring them forward just a little bit. And the ear on the opposite side. Bring it through this way. Now again, I have to maintain my perspective here, watching my perspective planes that are coming across like this, and maintain that up through here to make sure that the height of the ears is appropriate to the angle that the character's head is on. On this side here, this line here, I'm going to bring this over top of the ear so it appears as though the ears are on the opposite side of the head. I'll just rough in the inside of the ears. Let's do a quick flip back to that original drawing just to see how it looks. That looks pretty good. It actually rotates nicely. And it maintains all the volumes. You can see the nose is maintaining its volume, the mouth is maintaining the volume, the cheeks are maintaining the volume, the ears are pretty good. See, everything's maintaining that volume all the way through. So you want to make sure that your character does that to keep the character on model. Now what we can do is we can make this as though the character is looking over the edge of a cliff, like here's the edge of the cliff, and their hands we'll just roughly draw in the hands right there on the opposite side. So what we can do is we can draw the neck in back here with shoulders up in that position as though the arms are coming forward like that, and then the body would be back here in that position. So It gives you a different sense of the attitude of the character. Again, you can see how loosely I'm working with the full understanding that if I wanted to take this to a final drawing, what I'd do is I'd lay another sheet of paper over top of it, and I'd just redraw the character. I'd trace over my drawing and finalize the drawing in that way, as opposed to, you know, having to think, oh, I've got to keep this character bang on model, and the character line has to be perfect as soon as I do it. Well, that couldn't be the farthest thing from the truth. Be as rough as you want to. I have 3 stages that I go through in my drawing, which I call rough, which is just basically your spheres, basically what we've got here, but I have gone in and I put a final line on it. But you saw the initial stages of where we're dealing with just the rough cranial mass. That's my rough stage, where I'm just planning things out and being wispy with my lines. Then your second stage is to go to the rough stage where we're at right now, where I've gone through and I've started to finalize some of the lines and define where everything is. But you can still see there's jagged lines here, there, and everywhere, and it's a pretty messy looking drawing. And then I go to my final stage where I take a blank sheet of paper, lay it over top of that, and then I go in, and that's where I do my pure final lines to get the whole thing completely finished. So don't be afraid of going through this process. And as you've seen so far, that there is a multi-stage process to drawing your cartoon characters that you have to go through. That it's not just one of those simple 1, 2, 3 step how to draw type systems that I absolutely abhor looking at in any booklet form, because they're just so misleading, and they don't give you the proper sense of how this character is actually supposed to be drawn. So when you go through something like this, you actually realize, holy cow, there's like 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 stages that you go through, you know, considering all the corrections that you make and decisions you have to make about where the vanishing points are and how the lines run across here, going off to the vanishing point, the lines coming across this way in perspective to go after the second vanishing point in that direction. You have to consider all these things as you're going through your drawing. Otherwise, your drawings are just going to lie flat on the paper and they won't have any emotion to them whatsoever. So be aware of that element of it as well. Like, I'm just looking at this drawing again and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that tuft of hair is really in the wrong place. It really should be shifted over here just a little bit more. So just by doing that, it changes the parameters of how the ears are sitting on the head, and it makes a difference to do something like that. And again, I go back to my statement of don't be afraid to do this. And it goes back to one of my other rules, which I mentioned before, and that is it doesn't matter how your job gets done, it doesn't matter how the drawing gets done, just so long as in the end it looks good. That's the important thing. Nobody's going to be caring at all about all these stages that you went through to get your final drawing, all the rough stuff that you did and the little wispy lines and all that stuff. They don't care because they'll never ever see it. All they see is the final line of your drawing, and they accept it. They either accept it for face value as to what it is that you've represented, and they understand that based on their own three-dimensional world that, yeah, the perspective is correct and the character looks solid in three-dimensional. They'll either accept that or they'll go, there's something weird about that drawing. I don't. And it's all on a subconscious level, of course. They'll go, I don't know what's really wrong with that, but I don't like that drawing. That's a bad drawing. And they don't even know why it is. Okay? That's the bottom line of your drawing, is I don't care how you get the job done, just so long as it looks good and you're not stealing someone else's character design or something like that, or their ideas. So there's some basics on drawing your cartoon characters and thinking about how your character is put together. If you use all of these elements as you're drawing, you'll find that your drawings will begin to come to life more and more. And it's important that you begin to think about these things as we go through this entire process.